A decree marked the date for the death of an entire people. The only person who could stop it was a queen guarding a secret, and walking into the throne room uninvited meant a death sentence. She walked in anyway. Her book is the only one in the Bible that never mentions God once, and yet it tells the most improbable rescue story in history. To understand how a Jewish orphan ended up standing before that throne, we have to go back to where it all began. The year is 480 BC. The Persian Empire rules the world, 127 provinces, from India to Ethiopia. On the throne, a name history remembers, King Ahasuerus, ruling from Susa, the winter capital. Did you know King Ahasuerus is the same Xerxes from the history books, the one who faced the 300 Spartans at Thermopylae? The Bible and Greek history collide on the same throne, and he's about to throw the biggest party Susa has ever seen. King Ahasuerus throws open the treasury for a banquet lasting 180 days. 6 months of feasting just to show off the empire's wealth. Then 7 more days of banquet for all the people of Susa in the garden of the royal palace. Notice the details of this banquet. White and blue linen curtains tied with silver cords, marble columns, couches of gold and silver. Every guest drinks from a different golden goblet than the one beside him, and the wine flows freely without limit. On the 7th day, the wine has already gone to the king's head. Merry and showing off in front of his guests, Ahasuerus sends for Queen Vashti, wearing the royal crown, to display her beauty to all the princes and the people gathered at the palace. And the unthinkable happens. Vashti refuses to come. A public no to the order of the greatest king in the world, in front of every prince gathered there. The silence that falls over the hall is deafening. No one had ever defied King Ahasuerus like that, in front of everyone. The king's advisors panic. Their argument. Once the women of the empire hear the queen disobeyed, they'll despise their own husbands. In seconds, one woman's refusal becomes a matter of state, threatening the order of the entire empire. The sentence comes down. Vashti is banished from the king's presence forever. A decree spreads across the whole empire, sealed and irrevocable. The queen's throne sits empty, and it's in that very emptiness, with no one imagining it, that Esther's story is about to begin. The search begins. The king's officers sweep through the empire's 127 provinces, gathering the most beautiful young women from every region, bringing them all to Susa. There, they're placed in the care of Haggai, the eunuch in charge of the king's house of women. Cut to a man in Susa, Mordecai, a Jew of the tribe of Benjamin. He descends from the exiles of Jerusalem, the people carried off by force to Babylon decades earlier. An ordinary man in the middle of the capital of the greatest empire on earth, but one about to change everything. Mordecai raised his orphaned cousin, Hadassah, known by her Persian name, Esther. He raised her as his own daughter from childhood. And now, the young woman's beauty catches the eye of the king's officers, combing Susa for the most beautiful girls for the palace. Esther is taken to the palace, into Haggai's harem. She didn't choose this, she was taken from home. But notice this detail. Haggai likes her right away. He gives her the best treatments, 7 chosen maids, and the best place in the house of women. Mordecai gives Esther a secret order. Do not reveal your people, nor your family. No one in the palace can know she's Jewish. And that secret, kept in fear, will follow Esther for years, living hidden inside the king's own palace. Every day, Mordecai walked past the courtyard of the House of Women, just to catch news of Esther. A father watching from a distance, unable to go in, unable to protect her up close. Only watching, waiting, hoping she was safe inside that palace. Did you know the preparation for each young woman lasted a full 12 months? 6 months with oil of myrrh, plus 6 more with perfumes and rare cosmetics. A whole year of preparation for a single night with the king. Imagine the pressure that put on Esther. Esther's turn comes. Each young woman could request jewels, clothing, whatever she wanted to impress the king. But Esther asks only for what Haggai advises. That humility catches everyone's attention. The text says she won the favor of everyone who saw her. And the king loves Esther more than all the other women. He places the royal crown on her head right then and there. Esther, the hidden Jew, raised by Mordecai since childhood, is now queen of Persia, and no one in the palace knows who she really is. The king holds a banquet in Esther's honor, declares a holiday across every province, and gives out generous gifts. But the secret stays intact. Esther still hasn't revealed her family or her people, exactly as Mordecai had ordered her from the very start. Sometime later, Mordecai, sitting at the palace gate as usual, overhears something blood-curdling. Two eunuchs of the royal guard, Bigthan and Teresh, whispering a plot to assassinate King Ahasuerus. Mordecai has to decide fast what to do with this information. Mordecai warns Esther, and Esther warns the king in Mordecai's name. The report is investigated, confirmed, and both eunuchs are hanged on the spot. A deed that saves King Ahasuerus' life, formally recorded in the Chronicles of the Persian kingdom. And here's the detail almost nobody notices. Mordecai gets zero reward for saving the king. The deed is forgotten, filed away in a dusty record book. Hold on to that detail. It's going to decide the fate of the entire story later on when no one expects it. After these things, the king elevates one man above all others, Haman, son of Hammedatha, the Agagite. A swift, sudden promotion. Haman rises above every prince in the empire, gaining power no one else in the kingdom holds. Did you know Agagite ties Haman to Agag, king of the Amalekites, historic enemies of Israel since the wilderness? And Mordecai is from the tribe of Saul, the king who fought against Agag centuries earlier. This rivalry between the two families didn't start now, it goes back generations. A new order comes from the king. Every servant at the palace gate must bow down and prostrate himself before Haman whenever he passes by. And everyone obeys, everyone bows before him. Everyone except one man who refuses to lower his head. Mordecai will not bend, will not bow down. Day after day, the other servants ask him why he defies the king's order. His answer is always the same, short and firm. I am a Jew, a silent refusal about to set the entire empire on fire. They tell Haman about the refusal. He watches Mordecai from a distance and is filled with rage. But killing just one man isn't enough to satisfy Haman's wounded pride. He decides to wipe out every Jew scattered across the empire because of a single man. Think about the scale of this. Because of one man who wouldn't bow, a plan is born to exterminate an entire people. Men, women, children across 127 provinces. A personal vendetta about to become genocide on an imperial scale. Haman casts the Pur, the sacred lot, before him month after month to choose the exact day of the extermination. The lot falls on the 12th month, the month of Adar. 11 months away. 11 months that no one imagined would make all the difference. And here's the detail no one caught in the moment. The lot fell on the farthest possible month on the calendar. Haman read that as pure luck. In practice, it gave 11 months for a reversal to happen. Even the dice, the text says, answer to another lord. Haman goes to the king. There is a certain people scattered through the provinces with laws different from ours. It is not fitting to tolerate them. He asks for the order of destruction, and even offers 10,000 talents of silver to the royal treasury, as if buying the king's approval. Did you know 10,000 talents of silver was a colossal fortune, comparable to the annual revenue of the entire Persian Empire? Haman wasn't just asking for permission. He was literally buying a genocide, with enough money to buy even the king's silence. The king pulls the ring from his own finger and hands it to Haman. The people are yours. Do with them as seems good to you. Notice this. Ahasuerus doesn't even ask which people this is. He signs off on the extermination of an entire nation blindly, without knowing who he's condemning. The royal scribes draft the decree: destroy, kill, and annihilate every Jew, young and old, children and women, in a single day, the 13th of Adar, and more. Authorization to plunder whatever property remains after the slaughter. All formalized, all legal. Sealed letters carrying the royal ring fly out by mounted courier, carried by messengers to all 127 provinces. The decree has become law, and the law of the Medes and Persians can never be revoked, not even by the king who signed it. And the act ends in brutal contrast. The king and Haman sat down to drink. Meanwhile, the city of Susa was in confusion, a toast inside the palace, panic and weeping in the streets. And Mordecai is about to do something desperate to save his people. Mordecai tears his own clothes, puts on sackcloth and ashes, and goes out through the city crying with a loud and bitter cry. He walks all the way to the palace gate, but has to stop there. Persian law forbids anyone dressed in sackcloth from entering. The same thing repeats in every province of the empire. Wherever the decree arrives, mourning explodes among the Jews. Fasting, weeping, crowds lying in sackcloth and ashes. An entire people, scattered across 127 provinces, now has a date set for death. Inside the palace, Esther knows nothing. Isolated in the harem, surrounded by luxury, oblivious to the tragedy outside. Her maids rush in to tell her. Mordecai is at the gate, dressed in sackcloth. She sends him clothes to change into, but Mordecai refuses. Something is very wrong. Esther sends Hathach, her trusted eunuch, to the city gate to find out what happened. Mordecai tells him everything. The decree of extermination, the appointed date, the silver talents Haman promised the king, and hands Hathach a copy of the edict. Mordecai's request comes through Hathach. Go to the king, beg for mercy, plead for your people. And for the first time in years, someone asks Esther to do the opposite of what she's always done. Stop hiding who she really is. Esther's answer reveals the size of the problem. Everyone knows. Any man or woman who enters the king's inner court unsummoned faces one law: death. She's not exaggerating. It's Persian law, no exceptions. The only exception: if the king extends the golden scepter toward you, you live. And here's the catch. For 30 days I have not been called into the king's presence. Esther may have fallen out of favor, exactly like Queen Vashti before her. Think about Esther's dilemma. Revealing she's Jewish signs her own death sentence along with her people's. Entering unsummoned is certain execution. Staying silent condemns everyone to death. There isn't one safe path, only impossible choices. Mordecai's answer lands like a shock, the harshest line in the whole book. Do not imagine that because you're in the king's house, you alone will escape out of all the Jews. The palace isn't a hiding place. It's just another trap. Because if you keep silent now, Mordecai continues, relief and deliverance will rise for the Jews from somewhere else. But you, Esther, and your father's house will perish. Her choice won't just save or destroy her. It's bigger than that. And here comes the most famous line in the whole book. And who knows whether thou art come to the kingdom for such a time as this? It's no accident, Mordecai says. Maybe every step of Esther's life was preparing her for now. Here's the detail almost nobody notices. Mordecai is absolutely certain deliverance will come from somewhere else. Yet never once does he say the name of God. It may be the quietest, firmest faith in the whole Bible. Esther's decision finally comes. Go, gather all the Jews who are in Susa. Fast for me 3 days and 3 nights, neither eating nor drinking. My maids and I will fast as well. She's preparing for something terrible. And the line that made her a hero forever. So I will go to the king, even though it is against the law, and if I perish, I perish. In that instant, The orphan girl raised by a cousin becomes the bravest woman in the entire empire. Third day of the fast. Esther puts on her most majestic royal robes and walks alone to the inner court, stopping right in front of the throne room, in full view of the king. It's the most dangerous moment of her entire life. Total silence. The king lifts his eyes and sees Esther standing in the court. The guards tense up, hands on their weapons. The law is clear, and it doesn't forgive. Everything now hangs on a single gesture from a man who hasn't summoned her in 30 days, and Ahasuerus extends the golden scepter toward her. Esther steps forward and touches the tip with a trembling hand. She's alive, and the king asks, surprisingly gentle, "What is your request, Queen Esther? Even to half the kingdom, it shall be given." Esther's answer surprises everyone. No accusation, no desperate plea, just a calm invitation. "Let the king come today with Haman to the banquet I have prepared." Why doesn't she just say what she needs? Esther has a plan and a patience of steel. At the banquet, the king presses again. "What is your petition, Esther? Name it, and it will be granted." And once more, Esther delays. "Come tomorrow to another banquet, and then I will make my request." Why does she wait so long? Hold on to that question. The answer is coming. Haman leaves that banquet happy and in high spirits. The only guest, besides the king, personally invited by the queen. And on top of that, invited back again tomorrow. He is literally at the top of the Persian world, at the peak of his own power, until he passes the palace gate and sees Mordecai sitting there, motionless, refusing to rise, refusing to bow, not even trembling before him. And all that pleasure, all that joy of Haman's, evaporates in a single second. Only rage remains, bitter and immediate. Think about it. Haman holds the second highest office in the empire, incalculable wealth, exclusive invitations from the queen herself, and yet his entire happiness hinges on one single man bowing before him. Pride, we discover here, is a bottomless stomach. At home, Haman gathers his friends and his wife Zeresh, and boasts non-stop. Riches, sons, promotions, the queen's exclusive banquets. But he ends with a bitter confession. "All of this means nothing to me as long as I see Mordecai the Jew sitting at the gate." Zeresh's suggestion is radical. Let a gallows 50 cubits high be built, 75 feet, as tall as an 8-story building. Early tomorrow, ask the king to hang Mordecai on it. Then go happily to the banquet. Haman listens and smiles. The idea delights Haman deeply, and he orders the gallows built that very night, without waiting for dawn. The giant timber structure rises in front of his own house, visible from across Susa, built not just to kill, but to publicly humiliate Mordecai. And that night, while the gallows rises across the city, the king, on the other side of the palace, simply cannot sleep. Just plain insomnia, no apparent reason. It's this tiny detail that's about to turn the history of the entire empire upside down. Did you know the book of Esther never mentions God's name once in the entire text? And yet Jewish readers call this specific night the night God didn't sleep. Seems providence works the night shift too. Unable to sleep, the king sends for the book of Chronicles of the kingdom and orders it read aloud. Out of every possible page, among years of records, the reading lands exactly on the story of Bigthan and Teresh, the plot Mordecai exposed. What honor and distinction was given to Mordecai for this? The king asks, intrigued by the story, and the servant's answer is blunt. None. A heroic deed forgotten for years suddenly wakes up, on the worst possible night, for Haman. Dawn breaks. And guess who arrives early at the palace court, precisely to request Mordecai's gallows? Haman, of course, eager to start the day right. The king asks, "Who is in the court?" They answer, "Haman." And the king orders, "Let him in." Before Haman can even open his mouth to ask for the gallows, the king speaks first. What shall be done for the man whom the king wishes to honor? And Haman, thinking to himself, smiles. Whom would the king wish to honor more than me? Haman, absolutely certain the prize is his, goes all out with his answer. Bring royal robes the king himself has worn, the horse the king has ridden, and set the royal crown on the horse's head. He's planning it all for himself without realizing it. And let one of the king's most noble princes lead the man on horseback through the city's main square, proclaiming loudly, "Thus shall it be done to the man whom the king wishes to honor." Haman is already picturing himself cheered through the streets of Susa. And the king answers without hesitation, "Hurry, take the robes and the horse, exactly as you said, and do so. For Mordecai the Jew, who sits at the palace gate." The words hit Haman like the whole sky caving in. The most ironic scene in the entire Bible happens now. Haman on foot, leading Mordecai on horseback through the square of Susa, shouting at the top of his lungs the honor of the very man he'd planned to hang that same morning. The humiliation is public and total. Haman rushes home in deep mourning, his head covered in shame, and it's Zeresh herself who speaks the prophecy. "If Mordecai is of Jewish descent, you will not prevail against him. Instead, you will surely fall before him." The words come true far too fast. And before Haman can even catch his breath, the king's eunuchs arrive in a rush, pounding on the door to take him to Esther's second banquet. He gets up and goes, with no idea he's walking straight into his own final judgment. The second banquet begins in the palace of Susa. Wine is poured once again, and the king asks, now for the third time, "What is your petition, Queen Esther? Even half the kingdom will be granted." Now is the moment of truth. Esther takes a deep breath, looks the king in the eye, and finally speaks the truth she'd hidden. "If I have found favor in your eyes, O king, let my life be my petition, and my people be my request." The entire hall falls silent. "For we have been sold, my people and I, to be destroyed, killed and annihilated," Esther says, her voice trembling before everyone. The queen has just revealed herself. She belongs to the very people condemned by the decree the king signed. The king, stunned, rises from the table and demands, "Who is this man? Where is the one whose heart is so full of evil he'd do such a thing?" He still hasn't realized he signed the decree himself, or who's sitting right at the table. Esther points her finger across the table, without hesitating one more second. "The adversary and enemy is this wicked man, Haman." The queen's gesture cuts across the entire hall. Haman shrinks back in terror before the king and queen. The king rises in fury, drops his wine cup, and storms out to the palace garden. And one single thought pounds in his head: the queen condemned to death by a decree he himself signed, bought by the very man sitting at the table. Haman, seeing that his fate is already sealed by the king himself, stays behind to beji the queen for his life, and collapses desperate onto the velvet couch where Esther was reclining, right there at the banquet table. At that exact moment, the king returns from the garden, furious, and sees Haman fallen on the couch where the queen is reclining. Would he actually assault the queen here, in my own house? Haman's fate has just been sealed forever. They cover Haman's face, the Persian gesture reserved for the condemned. And Harbona, one of the king's eunuchs, delivers the final piece of information. There stands the gallows, 75 feet tall, that Haman built for Mordecai, right there at his own house. The king's sentence is just 4 words, spoken without a moment's hesitation: "Hang him on it." And Haman dies on the very 75-foot gallows he built with his own hands for the man who once saved the king's life. Think about the size of that irony. The gallows was meant to be Haman's trophy of revenge against Mordecai. It became the instrument of his own execution. Proverbs already warned us, "Whoever digs a pit for another falls into it himself." That same day, the king gives Esther the entire house of Haman, and Mordecai enters the king's presence. Esther finally reveals their kinship. The king takes off his own signet ring, recovered from Haman, and hands it to Mordecai. And here's the detail no one forgets. The very ring that sealed the death decree against the Jews now sits on a Jewish man's finger. Mordecai is placed over the house of Haman. The reversal is complete. But the main thing is still missing, because the original decree of extermination is still in force. Law of the Medes and Persians, once written and sealed, it cannot be revoked, not even by the king who signed it. The massacre's date remains fixed, the 13th of Adar. Esther returns to the hall and falls at the king's feet once more, weeping without end. Revoke the wicked letters of Haman. How can I bear to watch the evil that will fall on my people? How can I watch my own people destroyed? The legal solution is brilliant, worthy of Mordecai. Since the old decree can't be cancelled, let another decree be written, giving the Jews the right to gather and defend themselves against anyone who dares to attack them. The royal couriers race out mounted on swift horses. The new edict, sealed with the king's ring, reaches all 127 provinces of the empire. Same date, the 13th of Adar, but now the playing field is even. And Mordecai leaves the king's presence completely transformed. Royal robes of blue and white, a great golden crown, and a mantle of fine linen and purple draped over his shoulders. And the city of Susa shouted for joy and was glad. The Jews had light and gladness, joy and honor. And here's the detail few notice. Across all 127 provinces, many of the peoples of the land declared themselves Jews, because fear of them had fallen on everyone. The 13th of Adar finally arrives. The day marked for extermination becomes the day the whole story turns. The Jews gather, armed, in cities across the entire empire, and no one is able to stand against them anymore. Did you know even the governors and satraps across the entire empire helped the Jews, purely out of fear of Mordecai, whose power kept growing inside the king's house? The once despised official became the most feared man in the empire. Haman's 10 sons die in the fighting that day and are hanged on that very same 75-foot gallows their father built. The entire house that planned the genocide of the Jews ends up exactly where it planned to end the others. And here's the detail almost no one notices. The sacred text repeats 3 times that the Jews laid no hand on the plunder. They could have looted, the decree itself allowed it, but they touched absolutely nothing. This wasn't revenge. It was pure self-defense. On the 14th and 15th of Adar, rest, great feasts, abundant joy, and the custom of sending food portions to one another and generous gifts to the poor across the whole city. Right there, a festival is born that still exists today. Purim, the name comes from Pur, the lot Haman cast to choose the day of the genocide, the festival where the lot of death became the date of the greatest celebration, celebrated by Jews around the world for 2,500 years. Did you know that even today, when the scroll of Esther is read aloud in synagogue, every single time the name Haman is spoken, the entire congregation makes noise, rattles, shouts, stomping to blot out his name? And people still eat the famous pastry called Hamantashen, a triangular cookie nicknamed Haman's ears. The villain behind the greatest planned genocide in Persian history became a kid's joke and the name of a sweet cookie. Is there a bigger defeat than that? Mordecai carefully records it all in official letters and establishes the festival forever as the month that turned from sorrow into joy and from mourning into a holiday. The order reaches every single province of the entire empire. The book's epilogue tells us, Mordecai the Jew, now second only to King Ahasuerus, great among the Jews, seeking the good of his people and speaking peace to all his descendants. A fitting ending for a man who started out despised. Now the most famous detail in the entire book of Esther. Across 10 full chapters, the name of God never appears. Not once. Not one recorded prayer. Not one visible miracle. Not one prophet. How can a book of the Bible even be like this? And yet, Esther's turn chosen by chance, the lot that fell 11 months away, the king's insomnia on that exact night, the exact right page of the Chronicles, Haman arriving at the wrong moment. That's too much coincidence to be just coincidence. The lesson hidden in that silence is this: God doesn't appear in the book of Esther because he's present in every single page. Behind the scenes, exactly like in your own life, providence is God working incognito, never signing his name. And Mordecai's words still echo loudly in every new generation, right up to today. Who knows if you didn't arrive at this exact place for a moment like this? Think about it, your position right now might just be your calling. Esther had every reason to stay quiet. Her secret protected, the comfort of the palace, the risk of death. But she chose otherwise. If I perish, I perish. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's acting with an entire people's fate on your shoulders. And on the other side of the story, Haman, the man who had absolutely everything, yet couldn't stand the fact that one single man wouldn't bow before him. Pride builds 75-foot gallows, and almost always ends up dying on them. So now I want to ask you, what was that coincidence in your life that, looking back today, you see as pure providence from God? Drop a comment below, subscribe, and join me for the next story. A huge twist and plenty of biblical faith await.